and a link to a live stream is available from the Council's website. The audio recording will be available on the Council's website for 12 months after the upload date. As all statements made at this meeting will be recorded, your image and voice may be recognised and other people may be aware that you have attended the meeting. Your continued attendance at the meeting after this statement is made is taken as your consent to your image and voice being webcast. All persons in attendance at this meeting, whether addressing the Council or making comments that may be detected by the recording equipment, should refrain from making any defamatory comments or from releasing any personal or confidential information about another individual without that other individual's consent. The Council is not responsible for the statements of any individual made during this meeting, and any defamatory statements or any statements which include personal or confidential information are the sole responsibility of the individual who makes them. The Council's Code of Meeting Practice sets standards of conduct for a Council meeting. If any person in attendance at the meeting acts in a disorderly manner, or if a person makes defamatory or unacceptable comments via Zoom, then the meeting may be interrupted by the Mayor or by me, the Chief Executive Officer, and appropriate action taken. This meeting must not be recorded by any party other than the Council, and members of the public have already been invited to provide submissions to items on the meeting agenda in advance, and any submissions received have been provided to councillors. I now welcome the Mayor.
Good evening, councillors, staff and members of the public. May wisdom guide the deliberations of this council so that its decisions advance the true welfare of the people of the City of Blue Mountains. The City of Blue Mountains is located within the country of the Darug and Gundungurra peoples. The Blue Mountain City Council recognises that Darug and Gundungurra traditional owners have a continuous and deep connection to their country, and that this is of great cultural significance to Aboriginal people, both locally and in the region. For Darug and Gundungurra people, Ungra takes in everything within the physical, cultural and spiritual landscape: landforms, waters, air, trees, rocks, plants, animals, foods, medicines, mineral stories and special places. It includes cultural practice, kinship knowledge, songs, stories and art, as well as spiritual beings and people, past, present and future. Blue Mountain City Council pays respect to elders past and present, while recognising the strength, capacity and resilience of past and present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Blue Mountains region. Thank you all, everyone. We've got no apologies, I believe, tonight. We've got a full house. Can I please have a confirmation of the minutes of 30 April 2024? It's moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor Miles. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. If you could lower your electronic hands, it'll only cause confusion tonight. Probably stick to just raising your hand. It's easier for me to chair if that's okay. I declare those carried, and I would ask the staff to append my electronic signature to those minutes. I don't have them here with me. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? Councillor Fell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to item 13, I am a director of Dare Disability Services Limited, but I have no significant or pecuniary interest in the matter and will remain in the room.
So you're declaring a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. Yep, thank you. Yep. Any other councillors with a declaration? No, there being none, we'll note that. We'll now turn to minute by the Mayor, which is matter number 1 that sits before you. And this relates to Crown land issues near the Blacksand RFS. It's moved by me and it's seconded by Councillor Fisher. For the benefit of the public, before the timer starts, so if we could stop the timer, I'll just read the resolution so the public knows what it is we're dealing with. The council notes the New South Wales Crown Lands owns 2 parcels of land in Blacksland. One parcel contains a Blacksand Rural Fire Service Brigade station, and the neighbouring parcel contains a commercial premises. That's 1. 2, the council notes there has been an ongoing dispute between the RFS and the neighbouring commercial enterprise in relation to materials being placed across the boundary, causing workplace health and safety hazards for RFS volunteers. 3, that the council notes the council staff have attempted over the past 2 years to negotiate a dispute with no outcome. And 4, the council notes that council staff have referred the matter to the New South Wales Crown Lands and the matter remains unresolved. And 5, council writes to Steve Camper MP, Minister for Lands and Property of New South Wales, Jihad Dib MP, Minister for Emergency Services, and a copy to the State Member for Blue Mountains, Trish Doyle MP, requesting the matter to be resolved. In brief, the council has written, staff have written in support of this resolution. There are no financial implications for the council. The resolution, as I've read it out, I think is self-explanatory. I think the council should support both the efforts of our staff and also the Blaxland Rural Fire Service in this matter. Does the seconder wish to speak? No, the seconder.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you, seconder. Does anyone else wish to speak? If not, there's one matter before us and I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously, and I thank you. All right. What we'll now do is just go through items that councillors wish to pull out. So I'll start with Councillor Fell. Councillor Fell, any items you wish to pull out?
Item 8, Mr. Mayor.
Item 8, thank you. Councillor Miles? No. Councillor Schreiber? You'll need to unmute or shake your head.
No.
No, thank you. Get you to mute again, Councillor Schreiber. Councillor Sage? No, you've got an urgency though later, Councillor Sage.
Yes, I would.
Thank you.
Do.
Councillor West?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Redshaw? No. Councillor Hua?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 22, if you would, thanks.
Mark our business papers accordingly. Thank you, Councillor Hua. Councillor Fisher, anything you want to put out? No. Councillor Hollywood? No. Councillor Van Opdorp?
No.
No. Just remind councillors to remain on mute. I'll mute you as I see you. Have I missed any councillors, or I got everybody? Got everybody? Okay, thank you. All right, then I'll get you to mark your business papers accordingly. These are the items that will be moved in globo. Items 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 23, and I'll deal with the matters of urgency later. So I'll now have a motion to move those.
Mr. Mayor, can I just say that I think item number 20 was withdrawn?
Yes, thank you for that. Item number 20 is not on the updated agenda, so I'm reading the updated agenda that was issued earlier. So for those councillors who have a non-updated agenda, item 20 has been struck out. But thanks, Councillor Sage, for raising that, and I'll just say that for the public record. And I did read item 20 just now, so you're very right to raise it. Item 20 is out. And councillors, just to explain why that's out, Councillor Redshaw and I spoke tonight. I've guaranteed her the briefing she seeks without the resolution. And so she may revisit that at a later time, but we'll have the briefing first. So for clarity, Councillor Sage is quite right to call that out. The items we're dealing with in globo are 3, 4, 6, 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 is withdrawn, 21 and 23. So moved in globo, moved Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor West. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. All right, that takes us then to item number 8. And I actually think Councillor Hollywood has something to move here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move the recommendations as printed.
Moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor West. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you very much. I did want to pull this item out because it is a really significant submission, but also step in the process of trying to deal with what we call zombie DAs. So that's the popular lexicon for the much more formal title in this business paper, which is historical development consents. Now, we all know in this term of council, we have actually been dealing with a very high-profile zombie DA, which was the the wildlife and tourist development on the Great Western Highway in Wentworth Falls, between Wentworth Falls and Bullaburra. And for people who are not aware of that, that is actually also known as the Croc Park. Now, we were extremely lucky to have a win on that, with the fact that the proposed amendments were not approved through the State Significant Development Assessment process, and the actual application lapsed. But the issue of what we call zombie DAs, or historical development consents, remains. And it is an issue that is not just a concern for our council, it's actually a concern for many local government areas across the state. And I know for many years there's been a position for a review from Local Government New South Wales, supported by all councils. So it is really, really pleasing that we're actually seeing the state government, our current state government, Labor government, actually taking action on this and listening to local government and listening to councils and listening to the community to start this process of some kind of review and change, hopefully change down the track. So this parliamentary inquiry is a very welcome first step, and I thank the council staff for their excellent submission, which proposes solutions as well. So thank you.
Before I take the seconder on that, can I just clarify for the minute taker that the in globo motion included item 2, the planetary health report. So in globo was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 was withdrawn, 21 and 23. So just for the minute taker, item 2 was included. Does the seconder wish to speak? Councillor West as seconder?
No, thanks.
Okay. Any other councillors wish to speak? Any other councillors wish to call on this matter? No? All right. Then there's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item we have is item number 22. That's Councillor Hua. Councillor Hua, do you wish to move the item?
Thank you. If I could, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded. Is it seconded? Councillor Hollywood seconds. Councillor Hua, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'll make this brief. It is yeah, a rather technical matter, but yeah, look, I do think it's a really, really significant and important step towards reducing council's environmental impacts and moving towards net zero. I must confess that I've had a very long-standing historical involvement in the natural refrigerants industry, but I have no current connections at all with anyone involved in the natural refrigerants industry. I would have disclosed that as a conflict of interest, but I did for many years work for a number of environmental NGOs or industry organisations, and have attended many meetings over many years of the Montreal Protocol on ozone depleting substances that extended its remit in the course of those negotiations between about 2007 and moving up to the final adoption of the Kigali Amendment in 2016 to include the hydrofluorocarbons, which are themselves not ozone depleting substances, but which are very potent greenhouse gases and are being widely promoted by the fluorocarbon industry around the world and here in Australia, in spite of there being very many much more environmentally benign and energy efficient natural refrigerant solutions. So the intent of this motion, recognising the fantastic work that pioneering work, it should be said, that has been taken by other councils such as Parramatta that our council should receive a briefing from staff to see whether we can follow in the footsteps of Parramatta and indeed of most of Europe. It has to be said, there's an enormous momentum in the European refrigeration and air conditioning industry to embrace the use of natural refrigerants and to tighten down, clamp down on the use of the hydrofluorocarbon refrigerants. And not just because of the very high direct global warming potential that these working fluids have, but also because of the environmental degradation products, which are primarily composed of trifluoroacetic acid, which is being increasingly recognised as a real problem. And just a global experiment with the atmosphere that we just don't need to be making, because there are so many viable solutions. And this affects. Some people might start to wonder how much this affects us as a local government area, and I would say it very directly affects us because of our use as an operator of commercial properties and heat pumps and air conditioning systems, but also it affects our residents as well, many of whom jumping onto Facebook and receiving subsidised heat pumps using hydrofluorocarbons, largely R410A, but also R32, which are increasingly being phased out. And I think there's a very significant concern that Australia will become a dumping ground for equipment which is being progressively banned in Europe because of the use of these high global warming potential refrigerants. And I do think that in following Parramatta's lead, we should be working with our counterparts across local government, New South Wales and Australian local governments to lead the way in the natural refrigerants transition to phase out the use of these gases. I should point out, this has already happened for our domestic refrigerators. We used to use R134A, the HFC, with a 100-year global warming potential of 1,300, but the actual measurable impact of this gas is more like 3.5 tonnes when you take into account the very short atmospheric lifetimes, around 12 years of these gases. So that argument has been won, and in the last sort of 10 or 15 years, the hydrocarbon natural refrigerants are used exclusively in domestic refrigeration equipment. A lot of German supermarket operators are using hydrocarbons in their refrigeration cabinets. Coles and Woolworths, major players, are increasingly using carbon dioxide to run their major refrigeration systems. So this is a trend which the smart money has been pursuing for some time, and I would really welcome everyone's support to have a full briefing on the extent to which Blue Mountain City Council can become a leader in the local government sector in identifying this as an important issue, or important area of climate change emissions, so that we can easily move beyond.
Councillor's time has expired.
Much better solutions. Thank you.
Does the seconder wish to speak? Councillor Hollywood? No? Okay. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Schreiber? You'll need to unmute yourself, Councillor Schreiber.
Thank you. There is organisations now that will collect a refrigerant gas from refrigerators that aren't being used anymore, instead of being left lying around. Maybe we could look at doing that, getting that through the council staff to try and organise with these organisations that'll get that refrigerant gas instead of it being left lying around in unused refrigerators and causing problems to the environment.
Thanks, Councillor Schreiber, for your contribution. Any other councillors wish to speak? It's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Thank you. CEO, I believe that takes us to urgency motions.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, CEO. First urgency motion is standing in the name of Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor West. I'll read the motion for the public and then move to the seconder. The mover and seconder, and I'll depart with my normal practice tonight. Instead of just having the mover and seconder and anyone in opposition, I think given the gravity of the motion, the 3 ward councillors should properly speak to it. So the motion is, the names are Hollywood and West, is that council notes that a private land holding at 68 to 70 Meeks Crescent, Falconbridge has been listed for auction on 18 June 2024. That's 1. 2, that council notes this land has been identified by the Blue Mountains Conservation Society as a valuable strategic addition to the Blue Mountains National Park because it is a critical site for the rare Falconbridge mallee ash, Eucalyptus bergensiana, and provides habitat for a range of threatened species. It is a place of significant Aboriginal cultural heritage, end quote. 3, that the site is within the curtilage of and historically connected to 2 locally listed heritage items under LEP 2015, with Adeline Park considered of state significance due to highly significant areas of healthy vegetation with large populations of the rare mallee Eucalyptus bergensiana. Just note in 3, heath vegetation, my apologies. 4, that the Blue Mountains Conservation Society and the community has advocated for the land to be included in the reserve system as early as July 1990, including reports in the Blue Mountains Gazette. 5, that the council notes that 97% of this land, 124 hectares, is zoned C2 environmental conservation under LEP 2015 on account of its environmental constraints. Remaining proportions of the site exhibit high order constraints to residential development such as bushfire, slope constraints, ecological buffers, and vegetation constrained areas. 6, that the council calls on the New South Wales government to purchase this privately owned land so that it can be included in the National Parks Estate and Reserve System. And 7, that the council writes to the state member for Blue Mountains, Trish Doyle MP, and Parliamentary Secretary of the Environment, and the federal member, Susan Templeman MP, as well as the state Minister for the Environment, Penny Sharp MP, to seek their support for the acquisition of this land in North Falconbridge. I'll call the mover, Councillor Hollywood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for reading it out so beautifully. Look, I guess I do hope that all councillors will support this motion. And in bringing forward this urgency motion, I want to first acknowledge the work that has happened over many years from the Conservation Society and the way, in fact, that work was fully accessible. I also want to acknowledge the work of local residents in Falconbridge, one who identified that this land was listed for sale on the 24th of May, so only last Friday. And we were able to come together very quickly through the virtues on this particular occasion of social media. We were able to communicate, come together, and I was able to get to the point of bringing forward this urgency motion and lodging it over the weekend. So why do we need to move quickly? We need to move quickly, as the motion says, because the land will go to auction on the 18th of June. And I want to acknowledge that I've already had very strong and positive engagement from our state member, Trish Doyle MP. And whilst she is actually on a way for hearings on rural and regional health, she has been working behind the scenes, and I know will be keen to know the outcome of this urgency motion. I also want to just paint the picture, I guess, of the beauty and significance of this land. It starts on a ridge and goes across to another ridge with a big valley, and there are watercourses. The motion mentions the threatened species that are there, but also there are it supports a huge diversity of wildlife and has very significant watercourses running down into the Grose River. I do want to also acknowledge that while there are strong protections in our local environment plan through the C2 listing, what we are seeking here is to effectively strengthen those protections by the state government purchasing the land so that it will be in public hands through the national parks and accessible to the public. And I think that that's really important for if we think about this as fundamentally it's Aboriginal land. I know that it's also been, I've heard from residents, there's also been, this motion's been supported in principle by our Aboriginal Darug Nation people. So I think that if we think about bringing it into the public hands, being able to make it accessible, and as the motion also says, there are state significant sites within our heritage register as well. So I think we've got a really compelling case. And while we have an advocacy role to the state government, it is actually the state government's responsibility to determine the outcome. I think on behalf of our community, it is a really great opportunity for us to be able to advocate to the state government for a really positive outcome. And while I can't say too much, I am very hopeful that we may get a positive response. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollywood. I've also heard that I should be confident of a good outcome, but let's just hope that's right. The seconder, Councillor West.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd encourage my fellow councillors to support this motion and to support the campaign that's currently being led by the community, you know, with the support of councillors and the state member, Trish Doyle, consolidating this land, which has such great conservation value, you know, the vast number of the several threatened species, including the Falconbridge mallee ash, would be particularly important to the community and to the environmental protections and values of the Blue Mountains World Heritage Area that we all care so deeply about. So yeah, I'll hope that, you know, we will have a fantastic outcome with this. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor West. Councillor Hua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the state government to act to include an absolutely extraordinarily valuable piece of a parcel of land that should always have been in the national park. And I call tonight on this local member, Trish Doyle, and the State Environment Minister, Penny Sharp, to respond to the community's rising voice on this and to act and to find the money. Not that it's very much money at all that's required, it's really just political will to act swiftly, to start a conversation with the owners and secure this land in public hands and to prevent it from being utilised or held for another 60 years in private hands. We really have a very, very narrow window of opportunity, and I'm enormously heartened by the comments made previously that the winds appear to be blowing in a good direction. I really hope that in a very short number of weeks we can all stand together and celebrate this victory. I do just want to place on record a conversation that I had with Councillor Hollywood just on Saturday night, discussing this with her, and I was certainly had a very strong intention to lodge an urgency motion on this matter. I did think it was a good idea to talk first with some of the locals on the ground beforehand, but I congratulate Councillor Hollywood for being so prompt and punctual and getting this motion in, and I really am looking forward to celebrating in furious agreement that this is an extraordinarily unique parcel of land that is deserving of preservation. I also wish to acknowledge the efforts over a period of nearly 35 years of the Blue Mountains Conservation Society and the Colong Foundation for Wilderness, now known as Wilderness Australia. And I'm very proud to be able to put on record tonight that I've had some text conversations with Bob Debus, who has asked me to pass on a quote to the Gazette from him as the chair of Wilderness Australia, which used to be called the Colong Foundation, who gave their support to the acquisition of this land years ago and it still does. So I look forward to and I really hope that that Bob's voice will reach to the places in the decision-making structure of the state that it needs to ensure that the political will is summoned to act within the very narrow window of opportunity that we have. I also wish to join with Councillor Hollywood in acknowledging the support that we've had from Darug elders, Jacinda Tobin and Uncle Graham Cooper, and I look forward to others expressing their support as well. The Aboriginal cultural heritage values of this land are extraordinarily special and really deserve to be in public hands. I also want to say a huge thanks to all of the locals who have sprung into action so quickly. It needs to be clear that although land has been held in private ownership for 60 years, I understand, the owners are now in a position due to natural succession of life that they wish to sell, and they are very keen, I wish to note, to sell it to the government. So all that really needs to happen is for a knock to be for a conversation to be started with the owners through their agents, and I understand there's great willingness on behalf of the owners to secure this in public hands, and I really and I understand too that the National Parks and Wildlife Service is very actively investigating the opportunity that we have, and I really hope that that everything can fall into place within the very short window of opportunity that we have. It's my very firm belief that this is an extraordinarily valuable piece of land, and I wish to just in closing acknowledge the enormous amount of work that's been done over a very long time by the Blue Mountains Conservation Society, the Colong Foundation for Wellness, and all of their allies. And I hope that we have something to celebrate before the next council meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hoare. I anticipate standing with the Minister and the member, I hope, and making a good announcement in very short order that we'll send you a copy of in due course. All right, no one's opposed to this. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? Declare it carried unanimously. I'm going to read out the next urgency motion, the name of Councillor Sage. I'm going to ask Councillor Hollywood to take the chair so that I can second it and personally support Councillor Sage on this. Councillor Sage's urgency motion should be declared either urgent or not by the Deputy Mayor when she takes the chair, as I'll have a conflicted interest because I'll be seconding it with her. Councillor Sage moves one, that Council notes that AJ Bush and Sons, who I'll add is basically the place that people in Sydney take unused and off meat to, has announced that it will cease collection, aggregation, and processing/rendering of meat offcuts and other byproducts from small meat processors at its Riverston site by the end of May, due to their licence being revoked by the New South Wales EPA. 2, that butcher shops in the Blue Mountains will be affected, as AJ Bush and Sons are the only meat waste processor in the Sydney area. 3, the Blackson Waste Management Facility does not accept meat waste. And 4, the Council writes and strongly advocates to the local state member, the Minister of the Environment and the Premier to find a solution to this problem. I'll vacate the chair for the Deputy Mayor now. She can declare it urgent or not, and should she declare it urgent, I will second the resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And having listened to the motion beautifully read out, I will absolutely declare it as urgent. So I believe that it is being moved by Councillor Sage, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. And seconded by Mayor Councillor Greenhill. So I saw Councillor Greenhill, sorry, Councillor Schreiber. So I will give the mover the call, Councillor Sage.
Thank you, Councillor Hollywood. Well, this is really an urgent motion because I was approached today, only today, by a local butcher who has been informed by Bird Brothers, who does all the meat waste collections, that they've been advised by AJ Bush and Sons, who run the meat rendering plant at Rouse Hill, Riverstone, in the same local or same relative area, that their operation has been ceased by the New South Wales government, in the EPA to be precise, effective the 31st of the 5th, 2024. And that is on Friday. They have been given very little notice. So AJ Bush has advised that it will cease collection, aggregation, processing, rendering of meat offcuts and other byproducts from small meat processors as its site by the end of May. Now, how does it affect the Blue Mountains? Well, as I said, it's all the butcher shops in the Blue Mountains, the supermarkets, the meat processors, and it won't be just us, it'll be everyone in the Sydney Basin. This issue came to a head a few months ago when the state government announced that the AJ Bush and Sons licence to operate would be revoked as a result of ongoing community concern about the odour emissions from the plant and the impact to the surrounding new developments near Rouse Hill. Now, we all know about the odour emissions that have been complained about in Blaxland, and unfortunately, the Rouse Hill area is a growth area with housing development all around this site, which has been there for many, many years. So it now finds itself a victim of urban development. Now, the previous Liberal government had planned to relocate the facility to another site. When there was an uproar some months ago about the closure of the facility, Minister, or Premier, I should say, Minns, went on Sydney radio promising to fix the problem. Now the Labor government has reneged on that commitment. The facility can't comply with the rigorous demands and probably costly demands, I'd imagine, placed by the EPA. So again, we're faced with the same dilemma. And for background, the plant has been in operation for 68 years at the location, and it services, as I said before, the meat processors, butcher shops, supermarkets, restaurants, and other meat-related operations right across New South Wales. And it processes about 75,000 metric tonnes per year of meat waste and converts it into fertilisers, further processing material, pet food raw material, biofuels, and other uses. Now, the closure of this facility is a huge impact to our small businesses right across the mountains, who have only found out late last week that this was going to be closed. It's estimated into the Blue Mountains that there are approximately 2.5 to 3 metric tonnes per week of meat waste, which is almost certainly going to be diverted to Blaxland Waste Management Facility via general waste, though existing collection agreements exist. So they will inadvertently be placed there, even though council doesn't allow meat waste to go into it. But as we know, these sort of things can happen inadvertently, unknowingly. Now, the council has spent many hundreds of thousands of dollars on the odour management at Blaxland Waste Management Facility in the past 5 years, and we've heard over and over again the complaints by the residents of the odours from there, and we finally got the situation under control. And it would be really, really very disturbing if we were to have that same issue arise, and I'd say inadvertently, even with the strict controls at the facility. And it'd be so disappointing to be undone by the short-sighted and poorly planned decision by the New South Wales EPA. So I really would call council to urgently raise this and strongly advocate with the New South Wales State Government via the State Member, the Minister for the Environment, and a Premier to come up with a solution to this problem, because it is a problem and it is a really urgent problem, given that the facility is closing at the end of the week. So where are they going to go?
Right on the knocker. Your time's expired. Thank you. I don't know whether you could see the clock.
No.
Thanks, Councillor Sage. So I'll go to the seconder, the Mayor. Councillor Greenhill, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yeah, and I start by thanking Councillor Sage for bringing this resolution forward. I have to say that it's been one of the pleasures of this term that Councillor Sage and I think, work very effectively together, and I'm very pleased to support her resolution tonight and her fast thinking in bringing it forward. I also want to thank Mr. Kieran Best, local business person who is involved in the meat industry, who briefed me on this today, and I know also briefed Councillor Sage, and I want to publicly acknowledge him for that. Councillor Sage is right. The council has spent a lot of money in essentially removing largely the odour issues that we've had at Blaxland Tip, and it's been quite a successful process. We had a spike in complaints which essentially vanished once we had the vapor guard put in place, and I want to acknowledge that work. This will be brought undone very quickly when tons and tons of offal and meat waste are, if it is the case, brought to the tip and dumped there. Now, this resolution makes clear that that sort of waste is not acceptable at the tip and won't be accepted. Time is of the essence. The fact that this hasn't been resolved by the New South Wales government yet, even though there was an undertaking for it to be resolved by both the previous and the current governments, is extremely disappointing. It puts our council and all councils in the Sydney area that have landfill left, and it's not every council has landfill, in a very difficult position. In fact, the fact that we actually have landfill and manage our own waste in the city, unlike, say, for example, Penrith, means that we are at a disadvantage when it comes to this issue, whereas cities like Penrith, well, they won't have the problem because the waste will go to some state facility. It's critically important that first thing tomorrow morning, a letter in the strongest terms goes from the CEO in the terms set out in the resolution, making it clear that we won't be accepting this waste. It can't come to our tip, making it very clear that that's going to put both us and local businesses in a difficult position, making it very clear that the government needs an interim solution very quickly, i.e. within days, and the council staff expect to be notified of that within 24 hours. I think the government needs to know that we won't be accepting the waste, and that they are going to have an enormous problem on their hands. This letter needs to go on first thing tomorrow morning. It's going to be a very difficult scenario when vehicles full of meat waste are literally turned back at the tip gate. That is what we confront. It'll be an even worse scenario if that waste were to be collected at the tip, and communities from Warramoo all the way through Blaxland, Eastern Mount Riverview would be affected by a stench loading the likes of which we've not seen before. That level of air pollution in our city would be unacceptable, and we can't accept it. At the end of the day, we're here for our residents, and this would affect thousands of them. Again, my thanks to Councillor Sage for bringing this forward. The government needs to act. The correspondence needs to go out first thing in the morning, and it needs to go to all of those listed in the strongest possible terms. I anticipate support from the state member for Blue Mountains we've communicated today, but I think she will be strengthened by us taking a very, very strong position on this matter. Madam Deputy Mayor, I thank you for that, and Councillor Sage, once again, my thanks to you for being so quick on this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Now, because this is an urgency motion, I'll just ask, are there any, is there anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, I will then put the motion. So all those in favour? That is everyone. So I will declare that carried unanimously, and I will then hand back to the Mayor.
And just for the abundance of clarity, that letter will also go to the EPA as well. I'm anticipating the regional manager as well as the CEO of EPA. Thank you very much, councillors. There are no further items of business, CEO, am I correct?
You are correct, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. On that case, I'll ask for a motion to close the meeting. It's moved Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor West. All those in favour of closing the meeting? All those against? I declare it carried, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.